UFC 270 just got even worse. Aspinall versus Volkov is the new main event of UFC London, and Paddy Pimblett's next opponent has just been announced. I thought I'd break down all of these topics and more on today's MMA news reaction video, starting with UFC 270 losing 2 fights just before the weigh-ins. And when I say 2 fights, I don't mean 2 fights that we could do without. I mean 2 fights that maybe were the best 2 fighters on the card outside of the main and co-main event. We lose Ilia Topuria and Rodrigo Vargas to the weight cut. The doctors stepped in. They said they're not safe enough to make the weight, like a bit like the Yoel Romero, Robert Whittaker situation, or even like the Max Holloway versus Khabib situation as well. The doctors stepped in and said, hey, you're cutting a little bit too much weight. We're going to have to call off the fight. You're not healthy to fight on this card. Is it another conspiracy? Who knows? But I don't mind the idea that maybe I was correct all along, that the UFC don't want this card to sell good pay-per-views because they don't want Ngannou to call himself like a big pay-per-view draw and be able to negotiate with other companies afterwards. If this pay-per-view doesn't sell well, Ngannou loses all negotiation power moving on to his next contract completely, and the UFC knows that, and it's very suspicious how all of the good fights that were on this card are now completely off the card due to weight cutting problems. Ilia Topuria apparently had a bad weight cut. He's been pulled off the card. Rodrigo Vargas was supposed to be taking on Wellington Turman. He got pulled off the card. It smells a bit funny to me, because you know, if you actually asked these fighters, are you going to make weight? They would tell you, yes, I'm going to make weight, and I'm going to make it easily, and stuff like that. Like, I would trust Ilia Topuria to make weight without someone stepping in. Like, I think he would have made weight, but they stepped in anyway because he was looking unhealthy on the scale, I guess, or unhealthy in the build-up to make him weight. But I guess they allowed Davison Figueiredo to make weight, which is interesting because he's a massive weight cutter as well. So it's very interesting, but they've stepped in. Apparently, Ilia Topuria is too unwell to make weight. Rodrigo Vargas, also the same circumstance. Illnesses around the weight cut as well. Charles Jourdain made weight at 145. At least he said that he made weight at 145 and said, I'm not allowed on the scale because the fight is off. 9 days, I did my part. Very interesting how on 9 days notice, Charles Jourdain can make weight easier than Ilia Topuria, who's had about 12 weeks of notice for this fight against Movsar Evloev. Of course, Jourdain steps in on short notice, but he's the one who can make the weight. Now, again, I hope the UFC give him his show money, because this is, like, really bad if they don't. He came in on 9 days notice. They deserve, like, Charles Jourdain deserves a little bit of credit here. Stepped in on 9 days notice, made the weight like a professional, at least we can assume. I'm sure he made sure that a UFC official saw that he made 145 pounds as well. And he looks very drained out in the photo that he posted, so I believe that he made 145 pounds. But hopefully the UFC give him his show money at least, and maybe not even get this bout rebooked. I'd rather they rebook Evloev versus Topuria again to another pay-per-view card, and then just do Charles Jourdain versus someone else in the featherweight division that's on the come up right now. I don't know who, but maybe we can do Charles Jourdain versus the possibilities are endless in that featherweight division. So get Charles Jourdain another fight, put him on another card. He just made weight. Don't turn him around too quickly, like in 2 weeks from now. Let's turn him around maybe for the end of February, the start of March, something like that, against a featherweight contender on the rise. Make it happen. But yeah, tough for Charles Jourdain. Tough for Ilia Topuria not being able to get paid here as well and doesn't even get to fight. But there you go. This card is absolute garbage and dog shit. And it's really starting to annoy me how terrible this card is. And I'm telling you guys, what did I say weeks and weeks and weeks ago? They don't want this pay-per-view to sell well. And what do you know? There's some weight-cutting complications where the doctors don't feel like the fighters can make the weight safely. And they just so happen to be the 2 most interesting fighters on the card, and interesting and good fighters on the card that aren't in the main and co-main event. Rodrigo Vargas and Ilia Topuria both are considered by the Athletic Commission in California, which is a soy boy state in general, so you can't be really angry that California thinks they can't make the weight, because California's pretty soy boy and pretty weak in general of a state. But either way, they just chose that the 2 most interesting and well-established fighters on the fucking card outside of the main and co-main event just couldn't possibly make the weight without being ill or putting themselves in real danger. Very coincidental that the 2 most interesting fighters on the card outside of the main and co-main event were the only ones that weren't healthy enough to make the weight. Not just show up off of weight. They could have missed the weight. If the doctors really believed that they were too ill to make the weight, miss the weight and fight anyway and get these fights on the actual card. But no. Not only are they not able to make the weight, they're not able to make the weight so badly that they aren't even allowed to fight whilst not cutting the weight. Very interesting. I'm telling you, there's a conspiracy. They're tanking this card intentionally to remove all negotiation power from Ngannou. And now the card is as follows. Now, of course, Mikel Pereira is still on the card. So, wow, I haven't seen anything of him throughout the entire Embedded. So, that's interesting to me. But Mikel Pereira is still on the card. So, I guess they've got one of them. And even he has a tough weight cut. So, it's very interesting what's going on. But I'm smelling something funny going on. But Mikel Pereira fighting Andre Fialho. That's on the card. Other than that, the card's shit. It's a shit card. Michael Morales versus Trevin Giles is on the main card of the pay-per-view. Giles is coming off a loss, and Michael Morales is making his fucking debut. This might genuinely be now the worst card of all time. UFC 240 was... UFC 240, you can't get worse than that. And when you look at the names on the prelims and main card, you'll recognise some of them because they've become names now. But if you really think back to UFC 240, I believe it was in Calgary or something like that, or Edmonton, something like that, Holloway versus Edgar. That was the worst pay-per-view card I've ever seen in my entire life at the time that it was made. They have Jeff Neal and Nico Price on the card. We didn't really know who they were back then as much as we do now. But even still, I think Figueiredo was even on the prelims, but back then, that was a really terrible card. But this is... Take away Ngannou Gane, Moreno Figueiredo. You could not justify this as a Fight Night card. Fight Night cards should be the headliner of the prelims of a pay-per-view downwards. That should be the equivalent of a Fight Night card, at least. You cannot make a Fight Night card out of this pay-per-view card when removing the main and co-main event with main card fights included. They are not trying to sell this pay-per-view. They are trying to tank Ngannou's pay-per-view and give him no negotiation power so they can say after this, and maybe that'll describe why the translators were so shit at the press conference and the whole press conference was an absolute fucking mess and Dana White never once stepped in to say, no, wait, let him translate or anything like that. He just let it burn at that press conference. And I'm telling you guys, if this sells 200k pay-per-view buys, Ngannou's fucked and he has no negotiation power, and they're probably not going to increase his wage whatsoever because of how he's been to them over the past couple of weeks. So, for Ngannou's sake, he better push Cyril Gane at the official weigh-ins. But I move on to another topic which went down, which was Aspinall versus Volkov is now the new UFC London main event. So much for taking your time, Aspinall. I want to take my time, I want to build myself up, I don't want to be a hype train from the UK, all of a sudden, oh yeah, you see how you were fighting Shamil Abdurakhimov, you're not fighting him anymore, and Aspinall's like, well, you know, why am I not fighting Shamil Abdurakhimov? Oh, he's not injured, we're actually going to put him on the card against someone else, but you're fighting Volkov in the main event, by the way. 4 fights deep into his career, his 5th fight in a main event against Alexander Volkov, way up the division, and I'm telling you right now, if Aspinall beats this guy, he will probably be a champ, or at least compete for the belt. Like, obviously, he's going to move up the rankings, and he'll be 1 fight away from a title shot. If he beats Volkov, he'll probably be calling out a guy like Stipe Miocic, unless Blades versus Miocic gets made in the meantime. But Tom Aspinall, Alexander Volkov, I don't mind Aspinall's chances to just destroy him with the boxing on the feet and just piece him up. But man, I might take Volkov by decision or late finish, you know. Front teep to the body, something like that. I mean, Aspinall's pretty soft-bodied, so I could see Volkov maybe winning this one as an underdog, and he might not even be an underdog. I reckon they'll put this fight as... I reckon they probably will make Volkov an underdog, right? A slight underdog? I'll take those odds if they do that. At max, I could see them making this fight evens, but I don't see them making Volkov a favourite. But Volkov had a great performance against Cyril Gane. Didn't look the best against Marcin Tybura, but Tybura kept trying to take him down. Maybe Aspinall tries to shoot takedowns as well and work his jiu-jitsu in this fight, but I think we're going to need to see a different side to Masvidal. a different side to Aspinall if he's going to beat Volkov here. We're going to need to see more kicks. We're going to need to see some rushing aggression early on to make the fight happen. We're going to need to see some takedown attempts as well to try and get this fight to the ground. And in my opinion, that's just a few too many things to change. So I don't mind Volkov's chances. I'm not saying I'm going to pick Volkov here, but I really don't like this matchup for Aspinall. If I had to pick a bad matchup for Aspinall in the heavyweight division outside of Ngannou and Gane, who are the champs, it'd be Volkov. Terrible matchup. Really bad matchup. He's got reach. He's got size. He's got good takedown defense as well. We saw that against Topuria. And he's got decent cardio. And this is the first time Aspinall's going to go in a 5-round bout. This is his first main event of his career. So I don't like this matchup for him whatsoever. Really bad fight for him, but I think he could still get it done if he goes out there early on, nice and switched on, and just is on another level with the hands to Volkov early, because let's be real, Topuria was landing some shots on Volkov that if Aspinall lands, you're probably going to go out cold. So I don't mind Aspinall's chances, but I'm hesitant over who I want to pick, so I'm going to do some more research on this before I give an official prediction. But right now, I'm leaning towards Volkov being a bit too much too soon, because again, hey, I'm fighting Shamil Abdurakhimov, I'm building myself up, I'm going to get a lot of experience. No, you're fucking not. You're fighting in the main event, and you're fighting Alexander Volkov. Is Shamil off the card and injured? No, he's fighting someone else on the very same card. This is like a punishment for Aspinall saying he wants to take things slow. Like, no, you're going to fight on the same fucking contract, and we're not just going to give you a free win against Shamil Abdurakhimov. You're going to have to earn your fucking money this time. We ain't letting you finesse the contract and get another 50k bonus against Shamil Abdurakhimov, because let's face it, I reckon he would have destroyed Shamil Abdurakhimov in that bout if it were to go ahead. But this means Darren Till versus Uriah Hall is not the main event of UFC London. And if I was Aspinall, I'd be saying, hey, Till, fuck you, dude. I thought we were supposed to be friends. I would have been fighting Shamil Abdurakhimov, making my win and show money, and a bonus a check afterwards for a quick first round KO, and now you've ruined the trajectory of my career by not being ready in time, or just not wanting to fight on that card, because again, with Darren Till coming back after the losses that he's had, I don't blame him for not really wanting to be the main event in UFC London. The last time he did that, he lost to Masvidal by KO. And I'm assuming he just doesn't really want that pressure. His best performance, at least recently, his last win, good win, was against Kelvin Gastelum on the co-main event of the UFC card with Masvidal versus Diaz. So, I could definitely see, if Till is not too injured to fight on this card, and that's not the reason why they've put it off, they maybe could make Till versus Uriah Hall in the co-main event of Covington versus Masvidal's pay-per-view card, if they don't have Nate Diaz versus Dustin Poirier. Now, it's not the best co-main event, but it is a big fight, and Darren Till's a big name, and it would be okay in the co-main event because you can't find any other champions, and there's not much to pick from right now anyway. So if they're going to do Till versus Uriah Hall, not on this card, but they're willing to fight, I'd say do it in the co-main event or even feature fight of that March pay-per-view card. And if they don't do that, maybe they can just book it later on an April Fight Night main event, on a May Fight Night main event. We'll see what they do. Maybe even bring Darren Till back to Brazil in May. We'll see what they decide to do, but yeah, really bad for UFC London. But again, with the rest of the fights on that card, it's going to be a good card regardless. And at least now, if Aspinall wins, he's going to get his big moment in London, in England, in his home country, with a big win in front of his home crowd. And he's going to sort of take the sort of torch from Darren Till for the UK at least, and start looking towards like top 5 opponents in the heavyweight division. So if he wins this one, it's Stipe or not much else, really. Let's be real, he can't really step back after this. So if he wins, you're looking at Stipe or Blades and no one else. And then you're getting a title shot afterwards. So Aspinall's career, he said he wanted to fight for the belt in 3 years. You're fighting for the belt this year, dude. Most likely, right? At the end of the year, if he keeps winning. We'll see what goes on. Moving on to another thing that got announced, which was Paddy Pimblett versus Ilia Vargas. I don't know why people are now saying shit like they realised Gordon was going to be too much for Paddy. Dude, Paddy Pimblett would have destroyed Gordon. This isn't like a ducking situation. I don't think Gordon really wanted this. You know what I mean? People are saying sounds like the other way around. Paddy doesn't want to lose at home. But, dude, Jared Gordon is a very winnable matchup for Paddy Pimblett. And people that are saying that don't really know what they're watching when they watch Jared Gordon. He's not impressive in any way. He's just a wet blanket weight cutting bully who doesn't make weight half the time and just lays on opponents in half guard and does total strikes. I reckon Paddy Pimblett would have beaten Jared Gordon really easily. And honestly, Rodrigo Vargas, although he's not as good in terms of his credentials and on paper, because of course Gordon was on a 3-fight win streak, Vargas is only on a 1-fight win streak, but he technically won his last fight against Brock Weaver, although it was an accidental knee to the head of a grounded opponent where he KO'd Brock Weaver badly. It's Rodrigo Vargas. They are announcing his name as Ilia Vargas everywhere. I'll probably put it in the fucking title of this video as well, because I'm going to have to now, because that's how people are being introduced to him, but his name is Rodrigo Vargas. Kazula's his nickname. It's not his name. His name's Rodrigo Vargas. People would have known who it was if someone said Rodrigo Vargas. But I had to, like, check, who the fuck is Ilia Vargas? I'll have to fucking look this up real quick. But it's actually Rodrigo Vargas, coming off a decent win. Before that, he should have arguably been on his way to beating Brock Weaver. So this isn't a bad fighter. In my opinion, people say he's 1-2 in the UFC. He's 2-1. He's 2-1 in the UFC, essentially. And he was on his way to beating Brock Weaver. And he's technically on a 2-fight win streak as well. Now, he is a bit older, but he's also very athletic. So there's also that chance at a KO blow, a submission out of nowhere, that there wasn't really a chance of in that Jared Gordon fight, because he might be the most least athletic fighter in that lightweight division. I'm looking forward to Pimblett versus Vargas. I reckon Pimblett will beat Vargas, but this is a tougher test, in my opinion, than Jared Gordon. I genuinely believe that. Vargas is tough, he's mean, he's athletic, he's quick. He's not, like, specifically amazing in any area, but he's a decent, well-rounded fighter who can mix it up and take the fight different places. But Paddy Pimblett's got a tough test on his hand. A little bit of a step up. Not too much of a step up. I do believe Paddy Pimblett will win this one. I reckon he'll get it done by submission as well. I think he'll find a way to out-grapple Vargas. But still, tough matchup. Really difficult. I just hate when you've got, like, Headline Island. Headline Island is a page with 7,000 followers that announces fights. If you are following this page, you know everything about fighting. But when they announce this bout, you've got people like, who? Sorry, who? And all this, like, who the fuck is that guy? Are you an MMA fan or not? You should know this guy, really. Like, fair play if you don't know him by the name Ilia Vargas, but you should recognize him eventually after doing a bit of research. Oh yeah, it's that guy. Not like, who the fuck is this? Like, it just kind of exposes how little these people subscribe to Headline Island even know about fucking fighting. It's crazy to me. But either way, Paddy Pimblett, Rodrigo Vargas, good matchup. Not the best matchup in the world. In my opinion, this isn't co-main event worthy, so I think it's going to be Aspinall versus Volkov main event, Allen versus Hooker in the co-main event, and then Pimblett versus Gordon in the feature fight, or Pimblett versus Vargas in the feature fight instead, and we'll see how it goes down. That's all I've got to break down today. But there's been some other little bits of news I guess I could break down quickly. Neil Magny versus Max Griffin. What the fuck are they doing with this matchup? Neil Magny is on a win right now. Put him against a top opponent, in the rankings at least. Max Griffin, I believe, is barely top 25. Not even ranked. But here we are, March 26th. What even is that card on March 26th? I'll check it right now just to make sure. March 26th is the Blachowicz versus Rakic card. So I guess this is just going to get added to the main card of that card. Opening up the main card, Neil Magny, Max Griffin. And that's now looking like a really good card. So I'm looking forward to that one. But yeah, like, I just don't understand the matchup here. Doesn't make too much sense to me. I was thinking we're going to see like a Neil Magny, Sean Brady, Bilal Muhammad. One of those kind of names, but maybe even a Wonder Boy. Could be a good bounce back opponent for Wonder Boy to get a win under his belt, but no, Max Griffin needs his jump up the rankings. Honestly, the matchmakers are fucking retarded nowadays, and it's pissing me off. I'll say it. It's actually pissing me off. Also, Jessica Andrade versus Amanda Lemos in the works for April 23rd. This is a great matchup, by the way. Two big power hitters. And I reckon Andrade probably wins this one, but Amanda Lemos has got that power early on, so she could finish Jessica Andrade. And I kind of hope that she does. We need some new blood at the top of the UFC strawweight division. April 23rd. Great matchup. I believe that might even be... What card is that one now? April 23rd? May, at the start of May is the Brazil card. Why wouldn't you do these guys on the Brazil card a week later? April 23rd. They don't even know where this fucking card is. I don't get what they're doing, man. The Brazil card is a few weeks away from this. They're both Brazilian top 10 strawweight contenders. Put them on that fucking card, you idiots. Like, this company is so dumb. Straight up, I need to be a matchmaker for this company. These fights ain't making no fucking sense. Like and subscribe. Thank you for watching. Click that button up there. Toodle pip, I'll see you later. Goodbye.